Goldfinger Group is live. We're live.
We're here.
We're live. So today, Max and I are going to be talking about due diligence and inspection. So when we go to buy a property, we have to make sure that the property is what we think it is, and sometimes it's better than what we think it is. Sometimes it's worse.
Usually, yeah.
It just kind of depends. And so we're going to talk today kind of about the different phases of due diligence, different phases of inspections, investigations, how we go about it, and let's dive right in.
Woo! So I think the big one, like the easy one, is like the physical, right? You go in, is the building, are there the apartments? If it said there's 8, are there 8, right? What condition are they in? Are there plumbing leaks? Are there roof leaks? That type of stuff. And look, a lot of the buildings that we buy were built 20s, 30s, 50s, 60s, right? They've been around a while. You have a lot of owners that have owned it for 30, 40 years. And sometimes you go in and the carpet from the 70s is the carpet in 2021. So, those are things we're looking at, but we're really looking for deferred maintenance, right? We understand that we're gonna have to go in and do cosmetic upgrades, but we're looking for deferred maintenance, right? Are there, is the plumbing galvanized? What's the amperage on the electrical? What condition is the roof in? What condition is the foundation in? So physical is like the first thing that we're able to look at when we're on site at the property. But off site, when we're in the office, like we're getting due diligence items or we're looking at paperwork. And maybe you want to talk about like the paperwork that's probably most important to us when we're looking at these properties.
Sure. So leases and estoppels basically spell out what the agreement is with the tenants. So the tenants pay a certain amount of rent. They are entitled to whatever parking spaces they have been allotted in their leases. It shows what utilities the tenant is responsible to pay, what utilities the landlord is responsible to pay. So all these things, which one parking space may not be an issue, but then it actually may become a really big issue. So these one parking space may not be an issue, but 20 of them is, right? So these are all things that we look at, parking, utilities, obviously rent amount, security deposits. If you have 20 units and no one has a security deposit and all the units are trashed, there could also be disputes over security deposits where the landlord says that there aren't any and the tenants say that there are. So that's a big part of the documentation. Another big part of the documentation that we review is title reports, so checking to make sure that there's no liens on title, to make sure that we're going to be able to buy the property with free and clear title. Another part of the paperwork is certificate of occupancy, building permits and records. Should I keep going? I feel like...
No, this is great. You're hitting them all. So.
Hitting them all. So there's a 9A report, which is a restatement of the certificate of occupancy in the city of Los Angeles. And there could be covenants on title that restrict how much rent you can charge for a certain unit. So like low income restrictions. We may find out that a property is located in a historic zone, an HPOZ. It could be located in an area where the building could be deed restricted to only accept Section 8 tenants. So there could be all sorts of things that you can find on title.
I think we had a property that we bought last July where they had like 4 years of unpaid taxes, and then Beverly Grove. And then we had to our property, we got hit with it, and then our property manager, we had to go back to the title company, go back to the escrow company and make sure that it got cleared, because we're not on the hook for that. Like the seller, the previous owner is the one that's supposed to pay it, and it's actually, when you close escrow, the proceeds, they first go to pay off taxes. So that was something that was very interesting that came up, and why reviewing title is so important. And when we buy a property, there has to be a clean and marketable title.
Correct. And we also got to make sure that the loan amount that the seller has, obviously it has to be less than what we're buying it for, because you got to pay off the loan as the seller. So those are, that's a lot of the documents. I guess we can dive into them individually, or it's a lot of ground.
Stop diving.
It's a lot of ground to cover. I think what we can talk more about, like on the broad strokes end, is what we're looking for as investors. And Max and I, when we get a property that looks attractive, we'll talk to either the broker or the owner. We'll tell them where we're at price wise. We've made certain assumptions to come when we've done our preliminary underwriting. We've made certain assumptions about the property. You were talking about deferred maintenance. So if we're buying a property that's 100 years old and we're buying from an owner who we know
that one right there.
That one right there is 100 years old, and if you know that the owner hasn't taken good care of it, so of course we're gonna assume when we're underwriting that there's certain CapEx items, or sometimes the seller will just be straight up. They'll be like, hey, I haven't replaced the roof. It's been there for 60 years. I haven't, the plumbing's all original. I actually have a report. I actually have an inspection report. Like a smart seller, a lot of times will have an inspection report to send so that buyers know what they're getting into and they can do their underwriting on the front end. So even if we don't have an inspection report from the seller, we're going to make our own assumptions. And even if the seller doesn't give us all the utility breakdown, like the breakdown of all the utilities, we're going to make assumptions if it's master metered, if it's individually metered. We're gonna know that. That's pretty easy to find out. And then we're gonna do our underwriting. We're gonna make an offer on the property. And then once we're in the due diligence phase, once we have an accepted offer and we're doing our due diligence, it's really to just confirm that everything that we've plugged in as our assumptions is accurate and correct.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is we have an idea of what our business plan is gonna be, what we're setting out to do, and then when we tour the property, when we're looking at all these, these documents, is do we have an executable business plan, and which matches what we set out to do from the onset, right, when we offered on the property. So I think that's like the biggest broad stroke, and then the things that play into that is when you're on site, are we gonna be able to renovate the units that we want to? Are there additional deferred maintenance, right? Sometimes we go to a property and we see that the foundation is off, and now there's a $20,000 ticket item on a foundation that we never accounted for. And I think the big thing for us right now, especially with what's going on in the rental market, and a lot of things that we've talked about outdoor space, more space, office, like having a home office, is looking at the units. What can we do with the units? How can we add value? And I think that's what we do as investors. Like our investment strategy is value add, is improving the properties, making them more desirable for renters. So going into these units, what can we do? Can we add a washer dryer? Can we add a patio, right? When we walked our Keystone building, the 7-unit in Palms, creating a front yard where now somebody with a big dog has tremendous outdoor space, and adding patios to all the downstairs units, I think it's like a complete game changer. I think that's, checking our executable business plan, but then what can we do that's more than the business plan once we're evaluating the property?
Right, and what can't we do, right? Because sometimes you go into a unit and say, hey, we should knock down this wall, but then you realize, oh, there's electrical running through, or it's load bearing so there's certain times where you say, hey, theoretically, we could take this down, we could reconfigure this and that, but ultimately it's going to end up costing so much money that for the area it may not make sense.
Yeah.
So it's what can we do, how can we maximize the units, how can we maximize the property, and what is not feasible, what can we not do, what is going to cost too much money, and we could lose money on certain repairs and certain changes.
Yeah, and the other thing is we invest in LA, right? Like all our properties in LA. I've had a couple conversations, people asking, are you going to buy out of state? And I say,
after we buy everything in LA, then we'll buy.
Perfect. But it's like all our properties, I can get to any of our buildings within an hour, even with traffic. Mm-hmm. So it makes it easy, but I'm saying this because we have such a good sense of all the different micro locations of LA. But once you go to the property, you can really see the retail, right, or their coffee shop. So we're really checking like the micro location of every single property that we're trying to buy, because ultimately people are going to live there, because it's like a nice property and it's good value for them on a rental basis, but like they want to live in that area, right? There's coffee shops, there's restaurants, there's nightlife, it's walkable, maybe they can ride their bike somewhere. A property that we just bought in Venice, it's like you have Rose, Abbot-Kinney, the beach, Whole Foods is walking distance. It's so we look at all these things when we're buying properties.
That's right. And another note that you put down there was about financing. When we go to properties, some properties are in such bad condition that conventional lenders will not lend on them. So that's another thing that we're looking at. And once we've established, hey, this is what we can do with our contractor, this is what we can physically change in the property, how we can add value, then we can make a decision, hey, is this the type of deal that we're gonna go to a bridge lender? Or is this the type of deal where, hey, it's more of a conventional cash flow deal?
Exactly. So, I mean, the due diligence process is so involved, and it's beyond just looking at utility bills and which like is all important, but it's also about, is this an investment that fits our criteria that we know we can go out and perform for our investors? And I think that due diligence phase is really for us and our investors to protect us. I mean, there's so many deals, I shouldn't say so many, but there's a handful of deals that like we walked, we toured, we reran the numbers, and we're like, we can't buy this, like it just doesn't make sense for us in what we're trying to achieve. So we passed on deals, we've canceled escrows even though we wanted to buy them,
Right.
we wanted to make them work, but ultimately we can't force it.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the point. We are in business to buy deals, right? We wouldn't be doing this, and we'd still be doing Instagram live just for fun, but we wouldn't be here in the office, working 10, 12, 14-hour days just for fun. I mean, we're here to buy deals, we're here to buy properties, and there's usually a price. When it comes to LA apartments, there's usually a price that we can go in and we'll say to the seller, hey, if you want to know that you have a deal, and okay, so this is the price. All we need is a certified rent roll and clean title, subject to clean title, and we'll go non-contingent. But if it's most of the deals that we're buying where we're trying to get closer to the seller's number, we have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence so that we're protecting our investors, protecting ourselves, and ultimately to make sure that we're doing a good job for everyone that we work with. So I think that's about it. Thank you guys so much for joining. If anyone has any deals that they want to send our way or any questions you want to ask, please feel free to reach out at Maxx Feldman, just kidding, at the Goldfinger Group, at Elijah Kropp, and thanks again for watching, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.